Another blood-red sunset and yet another moon face, and still another 100 miles to my next resting place. Driving down the road, eyes on the horizon. Within my car, I'm all alone, but feeling good and feeling strong, knowing that this path I'm on brings me to myself. I'm driving.
Hello, and welcome to Spirit Sherpa, the show that helps and encourages you on your journey to unlock your magic mojo. I'm Jules, your co-host. If you're a beginner to this work, start with episode 1. Intermediates, you should start with episode 98. And advanced, you should start with episode 200. With me, as always, to share her insights and wisdom is the spirit doctor, Kelle Sparta. Hey, Kelle, how's the thunder from over there?
Oh, we've got it. It's the rainy season. Thunder came in, lightning came in. I'm hoping the guys who are rebuilding the fence in the yard are not getting electrocuted because they're welding the framework of the new bamboo fence. And so they've been out there working with welding materials and metal and all the fun stuff. So, yeah, all the fun stuff, which was fun yesterday because so funny story. I went with my friends to Boca Chica for like 5 days. And Boca Chica is it's a beach, right? So it's beautiful. If you saw my Facebook post, you got a picture of it. It was stunning. If you're on the newsletter, you'll get that. It's coming, or it already did, I think. Anyway, while I'm there taking my R&R, not working, right? Because that's what a vacation is supposed to be, is not working, right? At all. Spirit is like, I'm like, what do you want? I am on vacation. And it's like, and I'm like, vacation. And it's like, I'm like, what? And so it's like, it's time. And I'm like, time for what? And they're like, well, you finally got quiet. You finally got quiet enough, because I've been so busy with the rebrand and everything else. And so, they were like, you haven't been listening. And I'm like, I do listen sometimes. They're like, well, now you're listening, so we're going to talk to you, vacation or not. It's time to shift the way you do things. And I was like, okay. And so, it's very interesting, right? Because when you are working through, and this is relevant to the topic today, because we're talking about living into your divine feminine self today, right? And so most of my people, most of my warrior women out there, right? We start off in our masculine, right? We're like hardcore in our masculine structure, that's why we're perfectionists and control freaks, it's like must control everything to stay safe. Right? And it's my way or the highway, right? And it's all of that. More power, better. Right? And right? It's that, right? And so we start off in that energy, and then we learn how to shift into the feminine energy, which is the divine feminine stuff. And it's more intuitive and more flowy and more being with what is. And there's all of that, right? And my business, so while I personally made the shift to the divine feminine space back in 2010, my business has been very much still in the masculine. Online courses, lots of structure, set times to talk, structured things that we're doing here and here and here and here. It's very structured, right? Which it's a great structure. It produces results. We love it. And they looked at me and said, it's time for your business to evolve too. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, I was going to say, what you read my mind, because I said, what does that mean?
And I'm like, like the whole thing?
It's like,
I don't know, right?
Rebranding.
Right. I'm like, shit, man. Good Lord, you have no idea how much work that was. And so, and they just looked at me and they were like, well, let's just try one thing. And, I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what do you have in mind? And they were like, how about an apprenticeship? And I'm like, and what does that look like? And they were like, no, that's the masculine question.
I'm
Structure,
picturing,
right?
yeah, I'm picturing Dr. Strange knocking on the door.
Right? Yes. Yes. Yeah. And so, we're what I was left with after this conversation with Spirit, and then a conversation with my friend who is a business coach and who I was vacationing with. And I was like, yeah.
That you're not supposed to be working on this vacation.
Right, exactly. But, the guys were out fishing and this is what we do. So, to be fair, we only did it for like an hour.
Okay, there you go. All right.
But yeah,
all right.
The upshot though is that, and we were also, getting research for the retreats to see if we wanted to do retreats there too. So we did a little bit of that too. But anyway, the upshot though is that what it came down to is that the apprenticeship is a customized experience that is created in the moment with the person, with the apprentice, to step them into their personal power, step them into a higher level of experience of their energetics and the way that they wield energy in the world, and learning more about how to do higher level magic and energetics. And creating a space for them to learn the skills that they want to learn. I mean, I have 50 years of experience. And so I can either structure that for people, or I can say, hey, where are you? What do you got? Where do you want to be? Let's get you there. And that's what this is. And it's, there aren't even formal get-togethers, where, we meet twice a month or whatever. We're not even doing that. We are doing a direct conversation, either via Voxer or Marco Polo or Messenger, whatever anybody wants to do. And, when you've got a question, you go, hey, blah, 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 blah. And I respond as soon as I can with blah, 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 blah back, right? And then if we need to talk, we hit go on the call or the video chat, and we talk in the moment when we need to and keep you going. And it is an intimate, connected, in the flow, very feminine way of doing this work. And so it is really very suited to people who are already in and doing their work and maybe don't have a regular time that they want to be strapped to a time frame, especially if somebody travels a lot, or, if they have a solid schedule. It's like, I have 5 minutes right now that I need to ask a question and I can't get hold of you to schedule. Great. Just put it in a chat, just record it into your phone and I will answer you, and you can listen to it when you have the time, right? It is perfect for the busy world and for staying in an energetically informed state. And that's really what living into your divine feminine self is about, right? So as we do this, because what happens is we start to go from, we'll do this personally, but then if you run a business, you are eventually going to have to bring it into your business too, right? Because the goal is to find a balance, right? And so, I just had a call today with someone who's talking about coming into the program, and she was talking about, well, do I do this or do I do the Woo Squared program first? And I was like, you know what? Why don't we do them both together? We can absolutely do that, and then you get a deeper experience of it, and it's all good, right? And so, she was like, oh, well, that sounds fantastic, right? So, so these are the sorts of things that I'm talking about. And so the general concept of living into your divine feminine is about letting go of control, right? It's the S word. It's the S word. Surrender. Right?
No. No. What was that thing? Was it from Seinfeld? Serenity now. It's not serenity. It's surrender.
Right. Yes. Now, we have had a conversation about this on previous podcasts. I think I did it on a mini last year, but No, that would have been 2 years ago. Phew. Anyway, there is a difference between surrender and giving up. And it's a really important difference because giving up says there is no hope. Fuck it. I'm done. Right? Whereas surrender is I trust, I have faith that the universe will take care of me and that I will end up exactly where I'm supposed to be. Okay? That is the difference between surrender and giving up. If you are hopeless when you're doing it wrong. Surrender means I'm letting go and I'm letting the universe take care of me because it has a wider sight. It can see more. It has far more resources available to it. And you're just saying, this is what I want, and I'm going to let you take me where I need to go. That's the surrender.
I'll say surrendering to the process, not surrendering your power. As in, I'm not going to turn my power over to you, but I'm going to surrender to the process, meaning you're going to take me, that kind of thing. But I'm not giving you the power. So are there going to be resistances that come up?
Let me clarify that though, because the way that we think about power when we're in our masculine is different than the way you think about your power when it's balanced between masculine and feminine. And so it may feel a little bit like giving up your power in the masculine because the masculine sense of power is around control, right? So we use our power to control. And that is, you are actually giving that up. That's part of the surrender process, right? So I want to clarify how that feels, right? So, and again, it's super important to come back to the universe is your partner, not your parent in this process. And so when we're doing this, we are surrendering and we are allowing, and that's the difference, is you're not controlling, you're allowing, right? And we're being with what is rather than judging it, right? That's how we step into the feminine, right? And we're trying to we are having an experience, not trying to understand the experience, right?
We're floating in the river, not trying to push the water where I want it to go.
Yes. So, and this is the big thing. When people step from the masculine into the feminine, what happens is they go from the light. The masculine is the white part of the yin yang, and the feminine is the black part of the yin yang. So great spirit and great mystery in Native American constructs. And so the feminine, the masculine's in the light, which means we understand it. And that's how most people start their spiritual journey, is that they're in this understanding place. They want to wrap their head around it. They want to chew on it. They want to grok it in fullness, right? For those of us who've read Stranger in a Strange Land, right? We want to really take it in and just, suck it all out, right? Suck the marrow out of it and really do the whole thing. I'm Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood. I love my problems. I just chew on them until I suck all the flavor out of them, and then I put them in my hair. It's that's the masculine. That's the masculine, right? That's the understanding side. Now, when you come into your divine feminine, what you're doing is you are stepping from the light into the darkness. And most people come from the light into the darkness and go looking for the light switch so that they can understand it. And there is no light switch. It's darkness. Okay, stop trying to understand it. It doesn't work that way. Okay,
You took away my light switches.
I know. It's a completely different way of being. Okay, so this is about experience, and so we have to step into the experiential level of understanding, which is different than the duality level. So when we step from the masculine into the feminine, we're also making a shift from duality into experience. And duality means this is right, this is wrong, this is black, this is white, this is up, this is down, this is in, this is out, whatever. It is that. And we are stepping out of that where things have opposites. And we are stepping into an experiential level where judgment doesn't come into play. Okay? It is discernment, not judgment. And so we're stepping out of, this is right and this is wrong, into, oh, this is an experience. do I want to have this experience or do I not want to have this experience? And that's different than it's a good or bad experience. Just because I may not choose to have this experience in this moment doesn't mean it's a bad experience. It just means I'm not having it right now. Or that I missed out, right? The FOMO piece, right?
Yeah, I was going to say FOMO, right? Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So, it's like, I'm not having this experience and I wanted to have this experience and I'm so upset. That's judgment, right? It's stepping into, oh, I'm not having this experience. I had wanted to, but I'm not. And isn't that interesting? There must be a reason for this, right? And now I'm sitting in wondering what's showing up here that I needed to be here instead of there. Okay, you see the difference? So it's a different way of being in the world. And in learning how to be with that different way of being, you're stepping into a new way of being within yourself. And so the goal of this, and I know we stay out of goal, but I'm just trying to give you a sense of what being in it is like, right? So the beingness of it is to accept and receive everything without judgment. And then you may use your discernment from there to decide whether or not you want to have that experience, right? But judgment is labeling something, right? That's good, that's bad. Whether it's a positive judgment or a negative judgment, it's still a judgment, right? And this is the next layer of that just is, and is it something I want to participate in?
And that's the discernment piece of it.
That's the discernment piece, yeah.
Whether now you, and I would say, would it be correct to say willingly choose to participate in or go down this path or that path and all that, and then what it is.
And it's very interesting because as people get further along in their journeys, in their spiritual journey, is that, we become more and more open to the experiences that as beginners we were terrified of, right? Because we go, oh, I'm going to not know who I am. Oh, and once you've been there once, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, let's do it again. I know I'm up leveling, so it gets me there. Let's do it again. It'll be fine, right? You get much easier about it. One of the things that, oh God, like it's got to be 10 years ago now. We had an assistant who was following us around while we were doing Manifest Your Mission, and she was traveling with us, and she would sit in on the classes. And one day Kathy called me on something about my dad. I was processing stuff around my dad at the time. And she said, yeah, okay, we're going to do this piece of work right now in front of the room. And I'm like, we are? And she said, yes, we are. I'm like, okay. She's like, she just hit me with it. And she's like, this and that and the other thing. And I just sat with it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Okay. And that was it. And this woman walked up to us afterwards, and she's known me for years. I mean, she and I had been friends for like a decade at that point. And she said, I never knew it could be that easy. I didn't realize that it didn't have to be painful. And it wasn't surprising to hear her say that because, as I had watched her process, it had been incredibly painful for her to do her process. And it also wasn't surprising because we both came up through there's a group that does work in the Massachusetts area. And, we affectionately refer to them as Suffer Cocoa Bop because no pain, no gain, right?
No pain, no gain. Okay.
Right?
Suffer Cocoa Bop.
Cocoa Bop, yeah. And so, that was the inculcation that we got. That was, the initiation point. And so therefore it became integrated into her process. And, in that moment, she was like, oh, it doesn't have to be like that. I had literally seen her face down on the grass, splayed out, going, at times in our process, because that's how she had been inculcated, right? And that's how she'd been taught that this is how the work happens. And so not to say that there's anything wrong with being face down on the ground, because, we've all been there, but it didn't have to be, is what I'm saying. And that was what she realized in that moment, is that it can be that quick if you don't have resistances to it, if you're ready to step into it. Now, to be fair, it was not the first time that I had been faced with that particular piece of work, and I had done various and sundry pieces and parts of it before that. So it's not like it was the first time ever. But at this point, because I've been doing this for so long, I'm pretty fast at processing. Elizabeth Carrington, who was on one of our podcasts recently, she actually, when I was doing my reading with her, when she was doing the reading for me, she was like, "You didn't give me a chance to do any of my work. You just processed it immediately." Like, yeah, sorry, like habit, right? But it's like that, right? So you learn to do it over time, and it becomes faster and easier, right? Being in your feminine really accelerates that, right? Because you're not judging yourself, the situation, other people. You're just being with what is true. You're not resisting because you're with what is true. And so
does this also
allowing it to work on you? Yeah.
Does this also, I don't remember where you told me, but you told me that part of the growth is also not being basically married to outcomes. And I was wondering if that also part of the being in the feminine.
It is, but it's sort of overarching for everything. So
okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you're attached to outcome, you're living in the future, and therefore you're not in the place where you can actually make a difference. And so, because the now is the only place where anything happens. And so when you live in the future with the attachment to the outcome, now you're hooking yourself to something that you're trying to control and manipulate into coming to being. And now you're into like all this stuff, right? And so the not being attached to outcome is important, both on a personal level, but also if you're working for with other people, right? So if you're coaching somebody, you absolutely cannot be attached to outcome, because then it becomes not about them. It becomes about you needing to bring the outcome about to make you feel better and more valid as a coach, right? So, there's lots of different ways in which this all sort of rolls in together. Right?
Yeah. Lots of moving parts.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that, there are different, in Zen koans, right? Koans, it's Koan, right? They have these thought processes that they give you, like if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it make a noise, right? That's a question. That's a Zen koan. And, there are different, like, Confucius has sayings that give you help with these things, right? Different tenets from different religions, right? Ultimately, they come down to, can you let go? Can you be in the moment? Can you be present to what is? Can you not resist it? Can you not fight it? Can you not try and change it? Can you just be with it and allow it to operate upon you and allow your true beingness to respond to it in whatever way it needs to, and then be with that response and then see what shows up from there, right? It is an act of being in the moment. It's an act of being adaptable, right? It's being with what is. And this is one of the reasons why my group of people that are, the perfectionists and control freaks and the people who've been through trauma and all the other stuff, it's one of the reasons why we're so good at this when we get it. We're really good at it when we get it. We fight like hell to avoid getting it. But once we get it, we're amazing at it because we are incredibly adaptable. We have spent our entire lives being incredibly adaptable, adapting to what other people expect of us, becoming a reflection of others, doing whatever we had to do to be able to figure out and solve the problem that was in front of us and take care of ourselves and keep ourselves safe. We are incredibly adaptable, right? And so once you get past the resistance of, I must control, right? And you can step into this space, your adaptability. And this is one of the things that I tell people. I'm like, look, lean into your adaptability, because safety isn't about controlling the outside world. It's about knowing that you can handle whatever the world throws at you. And we are so adaptable that we're really good at that, right? It may suck, but we're good at it. Right? And so if you lean into your adaptability, your safety needs go way down because you go, oh, I got it. Whatever it is, I can deal. And so then it becomes about, what do I choose versus what do I need to control, right? And as we're stepping into the divine feminine, we're stepping into the being with what is and not trying to change it. And therefore, we need to adapt ourselves to the environment and to bring whatever piece of ourselves is relevant to that space, right? Not in a chameleon fashion like we have in the past. Okay, I want to be clear. I'm not talking about being a chameleon. It's about being in the moment and bringing yourself to it. So, if somebody, years ago, I had a friend who said, I don't want to be friends anymore. And what had happened was we had started off as warrior princess, bonders. And we had stayed in that mode, even though both of us had stepped into our divine feminine selves. And so there was this place where, we were hurting each other sometimes. And, I wasn't getting hurt as often as she was. And so she didn't say when she got hurt ever. And so I didn't know she was getting hurt because she didn't say anything, and she shielded well. So I didn't know. And so she came to me and said, I don't want to be friends anymore. And I was like, why? She's like, because of this, you da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, I said, you're right. I said, you're right. I said, that hasn't changed. I said, that's just, we fell into this habit. This is how we came together. This is how we were in the beginning. I'm happy to change that now that I've been made aware of it. I'm happy to change the way that I interact with you. And she was like, no, I think I need to be done, because she waited too long to say something, right? So her feelings were too hurt, right? And so she was like, no, I need to be done. I'm like, I'm very sad about that, but okay, right? And then she, I didn't fight it at all. I had no resistance. Once I understood where she was coming from, I honored her choice. I gave her a choice for a different option. She didn't take it. I had to honor that because it's her right to choose who she wants to be in relationship with. That's fine. And at the same time, she looked at me after a few beats of time after we had agreed that would be the case. And she said, I've been really working on how to confront without being like angry and upset. And she said, because the thing that started this conversation was she had said yes to things and then would back out at the last second. And she would sound really enthusiastic about doing it, and then she would back out at the last second. And I said, the thing that had started the conversation was, I said, I feel like a yo-yo in our relationship. Because, you're all in and all excited, and then you pull back at the last second and you leave me hanging. He said, so I don't know what's going on. I need you to explain to me what's going on, because clearly something is, because this is not how we usually are. And that's what started that conversation. And she, at the end of the conversation, said, I've been really working on how do I confront without being angry. She said, you just modeled it so well for me. And I said, so, want to still be friends? And she said, no. And I'm like, okay. Okay. But, it's one of those things that when you're in your feminine, I was sad, but I didn't feel hurt. I was sad that I didn't recognize it earlier. And I was sad that she didn't say anything earlier. And I recognized that she had hit the point of no return and had kept going, and that would have, that created the break, right? And so I was just sad. But when you're in your present about things, right, you can just be with the feeling, and it doesn't have to be anything else. Right? You don't have to judge it. You don't have to judge the experience. You don't have to anything. You can just be with it and have it be whatever it needs to be. Right?
So had you been more in the masculine as opposed to in the feminine, and this is I'm asking a question, would your reaction would have been more like, well, why? What's wrong with me? And you're taking it like really, really personally, or you're still grasping to try and get her to stay friends with you at whatever cost it is, whatever, and you're not accepting her decision, whatever her journey is. And maybe and this is part of your journey too, that for whatever reason, that friendship had to be severed.
And so here's the thing. Whether or not you are in a control pattern on it or whether you take it personally is dependent upon where you are in your work. It's not about masculine versus feminine. It's about whether or not you've done your button removal, right?
That's a trigger. Okay.
That's a trigger, right? It's I've been rejected. Nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll eat some worms moment.
Okay.
Right?
That's a trigger. All right.
Yeah. So if you hadn't done the work on removing the button or the trigger, then you're going to get that response. But the controlling piece may have come into play depending upon whether or not you've done the work around it's okay to be abandoned, right? Or to be left, right? Because abandonment is a huge issue for us, right? And so that may have come into play, but it's more about when you're in the masculine, you're trying to control the situation. You're trying to structure the way things are. And, is there a more evolved version of the masculine? Absolutely. In my experience, people don't hit that level until they've gone through the feminine and come back to the masculine. And so I'm saying this in that, we're talking about the early stages of being in your masculine, not the divine masculine. This is the early masculine, not the divine masculine. So the divine masculine is much more accommodating and understanding, but this is just different, right? So, so you may have gone into control and things like that, or whatever, but the acceptance of what is a very feminine space. Okay. That is the feminine by definition right there. And again, I want to be very clear. If you are a non-binary person, I'm not talking gender here. Okay. I'm not talking gender. I'm talking energetics, masculine and feminine energetics. When we in energetically, non-binary would be mastering both and doing both at the same time, being in your masculine and your feminine, both equally at the same time. That is when you hit non-binary in an energetic. Okay?
Would that be a lot harder?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. I'm just going,
it's hard to get to, but it's much easier to be in, right? So, the evolved version of the masculine is more about holding a container and being able to create form out of the beingness space, right? But it's a different evolution to it, right? And so the idea is that you are fully in both your masculine and your feminine at the same time and having it not be a dichotomy. That is what the non-binary or union state is. So, yeah, all sorts of fun stuff, right?
That's going to take a minute.
Yeah, this could be one of those episodes you're going to have to listen to more than once. But yeah.
Yes. And I'll be calling a Tibetan monk to explain it to me. Okay.
we are wrapping your brain around a new concept.
Yes. Yeah. But how cool that balance. That must be an incredible sense of balance. Because not only do you, the masculine, is holding the container, but then the feminine provides the acceptance inside the container. And it's like, ooh.
Yeah, the masculine holds the container and the feminine is the liquid within, right? If the masculine is holding a cracked container, then the feminine will freeze so as not to leak out. And so that's when we get hard and rigid and distant, and right, is because we're trying not to leak out of a leaky container.
Okay, so we have solidify the container,
Yes, which is why we do that in the second program in the series, is we have to solidify the container, because that's the solidification of the identity, and that's the solidification of your energetics and your energetic container, and it's what allows you to soften enough that you can soften not just to the world but to yourself, and that's how you learn to love yourself. Right? That's what the second program in the series, Woo Squared, is. It's all about learning how to unfreeze your feminine, because then when we go into the third program in the series, Woo You, that is the place where we're stepping into the divine feminine, and where we're doing that deep inner work, and we're really doing self-inquiry, and we're stepping into our sovereignty.
Okay. Whew.
Yeah.
It's layers and layers and layers. Yeah, no, we're going deep in the onion today. We're peeling back a few layers on that one. But it's such a cool concept though. And just, wow. Okay, more work to do. Yay.
Yeah. Well, and this is what I was talking about at the beginning, that the universe is like whacking me upside the head with right now, is stepping into this in the business world, which is the first time I've had to do this. And so I'm like, oh, it's so funny because I don't think I mentioned this. Derek Loudermilk, who was on the podcast a while ago, is a friend of mine. He's part of the Ethereal Network with us. And he had a meditation that he did, I don't know, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And I attended the meditation, and he took us 11 years forward in time to see our future selves and talk to them. And I've done this sort of meditation before, so that wasn't new. But when I went forward in time, I saw myself in my dream house. I saw a bunch of platform tents, like the glamping tents that are, the big canvas tents on a platform.
The wall tents.
Yeah, I saw a whole bunch of those on the grounds of my house, and people in, coming in and out of the house and surrounding and whatever. And I looked at me and I said, so who are these people? And, I said back to myself, I was like, oh, they're my clients. And I'm like, and why are they here? Are you having a retreat? No, they just come. And I'm like, how does that work?
It's something I would be asking. What's the structure?
Exactly. Right? And I looked at myself and I said, it just works. I was fully in my feminine self. My future self was fully in her feminine self.
Totally feminine.
And I was sitting there going, I don't understand.
Meanwhile, your brain's short-circuiting.
And then my guides gave me this apprenticeship program. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. I get it now. Because, the way that I've structured it is that, it's that organic thing, but it also comes with 2 retreats. It comes with 2 7-day retreats. Or, you can split it up any way you want. But, you're coming to Panama, so I figure people are going to want to spend a week. But the idea being that, it's not a set retreat time. It's not, I'm structuring a retreat for you. It is, you are coming to do your retreat in Panama with me, and I will spend some portion of that time with you every day, and we will get you to whatever you need to do. And if there's more than one person who's there for a retreat at the same time, then I'll put the 2 or 3 or 4 of you that there are together, and we will create something in a joint container, because that's how you showed up. And we're trusting that the universe puts you together for a reason. And then it becomes a group experience, and we create a group, whatever, right? I may do a class for this, or I may do a ritual for that, or, whatever, but sound healing, whatever, right? Because those are the people who showed up. And this is what the feminine is about, right? It's about being with what is and saying, okay, so this is who showed up. This is who's supposed to be together. Let's sit in this space and see what emerges to be done. And you may end up doing work you did not expect to do, because you're in this space. And maybe it's something that you were resisting paying attention to, but came up because other people are bringing it up. And you're like, oh, yeah, if I'm here, then I'm here. I got that too, right? Because that's how it works. I mean, if you aren't meant to be in that space, you won't. You'll get distracted, you'll get delayed, you'll cancel, you'll have an emergency that takes you away somewhere else. There'll be any number of reasons why you're not there at that time with those people. If you're not meant to be there, the universe will make sure you're not. And so, this is one of the things that Kathy and I have always done when we've done our retreats, which is we custom design for the people who register, right? We have an idea of what we want to do, but then the individual elements of it get designed around each person and then tested against each person in the process to make sure it will work for them. And then if it doesn't work for even one person, we rewrite and we start over and we redo, right? So, but that's because we're being with what is present with those people. And then there's always a moment in every ritual that we do that is insert miracle here. We're not sure what's going to happen there. We just know that something will happen there. And so, as an example, when we did our Manifest Your Mission workshop, we had a healing circle. And I did a healing circle to clear the businesses of, that they were building in that workshop of all of the limiting beliefs, of all of the limiting energies, everything like that. And out of the blue, Kathy and I watched as a whole bunch of gargoyles of various sizes and ages came walking into the room and aligned themselves with different people. And some people got one, some people got two, some got three, some got babies, some got adolescents. And I just looked at Kathy. I'm like, are you seeing this? She's like, the gargoyles? I'm like, uh-huh. We're like, yeah, okay. And we had to ask them why they were there, because that was the insert miracle here portion, right? We had set the container. Nothing that was not for everybody's highest and best good was going to get in. And so they were clearly there for that. They were there to protect against sabotage, inner and outer. And every person went home with at least one gargoyle. They got a gargoyle for every business they had. And we didn't know that they had multiple businesses sometimes because they were only talking to us about one. And so, and I'm just saying, we were like, why do you have 3 gargoyles? And they were like, oh, well, and one's adolescent and one's, like a 6-year-old and one's like a toddler or like a baby in arms. And the person said, well, I have a business that's about 15 years old. I have another one that's 6 years old. And I have this new one that I'm talking to you about. And we're like, oh, okay, that explains it. Right. But that's how it works, is the insert miracle here portion is being present to what's there to be done. Right. That's a divine feminine piece.
So in that experience, had you and Kathy tried to control everything and not allowed and I guess create space for the allowance, was that right? Okay. Then that would have never happened.
Correct. Or if they had started to come in, we might have gone, oh, you're not expected. Get out.
Oh, wait, right? Get out. And they're like, no.
Get in here. Panic, right?
Yes.
That's a masculine response.
Wow. All right. So allowing, I like that word. And we use that in Reiki too. Don't try to, if you're feeling something, just allow it to come, don't fight it. Don't insert your own egos to it. Just allow. So I'm like, okay, apparently I needed to hear that one. So
yes,
because you didn't know that my Reiki master uses that on me all the time. She's like, allow, Jewel, allow, honey. Honey, universe says allow.
Yep.
That is awesome. This has been so interesting.
Yeah.
This is totally interesting to me.
Well, and this, as I said, is going to be probably one of those ones that you have to listen to a couple of times to really sort of get absorbed into your brain. But it is well worth doing. And if you're hearing this and you're interested in the apprenticeship program, please know that I don't know how many of these I'm going to do. I am literally just going with the flow on this. This is the divine feminine, right? I have no idea how many it will be. It's going to be until I feel full, right? And so it is a higher end program. It is $25,000 to do it. It is a year-long commitment. And you have the general gist of what it's about because we've talked about it throughout the program. So if you're interested, there will be a link in the show notes to apply. And it is an application process. There's no guarantee that you're going to be allowed to do this. You do have to have certain criteria that you meet in order to come into the program. I'm not working with absolute beginners in this. This is, you have to have spent at least 3 years doing your spiritual work. You have to have at least you have to be able to self-regulate, meaning that you shouldn't be flying off the handle and being upset at quick intervals, things like that. If you still have that, then you should go in and do the Welcome to the Woo program because that will take care of that for you. But you can't come into the apprenticeship program with that. And you should have an idea of what you want from your life. And if you have a spiritual business, you should have an idea of what you want from your spiritual business. And I'll work with you on both at the same time if that's what you have. But it's not required to have the spiritual business. And so, you should have a sense of what you want out of the apprenticeship, because I custom design for you. So, if you want to come in and learn how to create energy nodes and you want to learn how to do high level magic and you want to learn how to, whatever, if there's a whole bunch of things that you want to learn, we can do that. If you want to do deep level personal work, we can do that. If you want to learn how to run ritual, we can do that. I don't care what we talk about. It's all about you. This is what the program is about. It's all about you. So the reason I'm doing it at this level is because it gives me an opportunity to teach about things that I cannot teach about on the podcast because they are dangerous to beginners and I can't guarantee who's listening. And so I want to make sure that I'm only delivering it in a way that is ethical, right? And so for me, this gives me the opportunity to do to have these conversations at a higher level. And that's the thing that I love about it. And it allows me to be in the moment, which I love. And it keeps me from being on Zoom all day, every day, which I love. Since I hate being on Zoom all day, every day. It's a win-win-win, right? And so, and it's more organic, which is lovely. So all of these things. So if you are interested, then you can apply. And when you apply, I will review it and I will get back to you and say, yes, it's a fit or no, it's not. And if it is a fit, then we'll get on a call and have a conversation about what it is that you're hoping to do and what's important to you and how you learn best and things like that. And we'll get a sense of whether or not we're a good personality fit because we're going to be working together very closely for a year. So we got to make sure we're not going to hate each other, right? It's going to be a good fit. And then if it's a good fit and we both like the idea, then you'll sign up and get started. So that's how that works. So I'm excited to get this going. And again, I have no idea how many I'm going to do. So we'll see. So what I'm saying is if it sounds interesting, sooner rather than later is the time to apply because I don't know what the cutoff is going to be. And that's just me being honest and being in my divine feminine. Yay.
There you go. You're going to go with the flow.
I'm going with
Spirit
the flow,
goes,
right? When it feels like too much, I will stop, right?
There you go. All right. So it will include all that information in the show notes.
Yep.
And do you have a Kelleism for today? Oh, yes. Another note.
But just a note, if you had been on the mailing list, you would have heard about this before now. The people on the mailing list heard about this a couple of weeks ago. And so, this is one of the reasons why you join the mailing list. You want to know how to get on the mailing list? Download Boundaries for Empaths on the homepage of the website. That's the easiest way to get on the mailing list. And it'll give you Boundaries for Empaths, which doesn't suck if you do it.
Oh, that's very helpful.
Yes, super helpful. So, that would be my suggestion. So join the mailing list. And Kelleism for the day. So I'm going to say relax and allow.
All right, peeps, relax and allow. And that's all that we have time for this week, folks. So tune in next time when Kelle adds another chapter into your guide to energy, magic, and the spirit world. I'm Jules, here with Kelle Sparta, and you have been listening to Spirit Sherpa. So long, everybody.
Bye.
Driving down the road, eyes on the horizon. Within my car, I'm all alone, but feeling good and feeling strong, knowing that this path I'm on brings me to myself. I'm driving